Hello and welcome to Grief on a Tuesday Night, number 14. First off, apologies. I've got a bit of a raging cold at the moment, so it's going to sound a bit crap. And if I cough, I'm going to try and do it away from the camera, from the microphone, because it's obviously not very nice. But yeah, as my son's college teacher came in with a horrendous cold, apparently, which he's passed on to everybody, and me via him. So yeah, not the best. Certainly finding at the moment. Now, I've definitely found it harder to talk to people about things that have gone on. I've sort of felt like I've said everything I need to say, but unless it's going to be via proper professional help, I just don't really want to talk about it. I spoke to a lad at football at the weekend who's been through something very, very similar a couple of years before me, and we were talking a bit, but it was hard, and a couple of bits were really difficult, and it was almost at the point where, and he's a really good lad, I could talk to him about, other things for hours, but it was like, I just really don't want to be having this conversation now at all. So yeah, that was a really sort of really noticeable thing. And as I said last time, I'm not going to go down the route of, talking to someone on the phone. Face to face might have been different. I just think talking on the phone to someone's just got no, it's not very personable. Just sat there, probably in your car, just on your phone. It's not for me anyway. So, as regards to Villa, they've had 4 games, I think, since I last spoke. Everton, Brentford, and Sunderland away. Brentford was in the cup. It basically continued a really difficult start where we're playing some pretty turgid, slow, dire football, not creating anything at all for any forward players massively out of form. So Everton, we were pretty lucky to get away with a 0-0. They had a stack of chances that obviously they didn't take. We had very, very few. Brentford, there were odd spots where it was quite bright, but you were playing a team that had been completely changed, and we changed ours too, admittedly, but it was surely a very beatable Brentford team. Finished 1-1, went to penalties, and we missed 2 of our penalties and went out. So that was the end of that competition. Sunderland was really poor, and that's when I think people started to. We've got past the sort of, well, it's only 1 game, it's only 2 games, it's only 3 games. 1-0 up against a newly promoted team. They had 10 men for a lot of the match. They had a sending off in the first half, and we finally scored. Albeit, it was a decent shot, but the keeper's pretty much punched it into the back of the net. But we're 1-0 up, and then the first thing we do, rather than to build on that momentum, I'll maybe come back to that later, that word momentum, but rather than build on that, we just slowed it down. It was ridiculous. We're playing 10 men. We've got space to move players about, get them the ball, and sort of run them ragged, really. But we slowed it down. Sunderland were always deservedly in the game. There was no luck about their equaliser. They fully deserved it, really. And they were the ones causing problems. We had a chance near the end. Ollie Watkins didn't convert, but I'm certainly not going to be one to bash him because he's feeding off scraps. And yeah, he should have scored that one, but he really is feeding off scraps. So yeah, that was the first time I think everyone started to get a little bit agitated as to what's gone on, through the summer. By all accounts, there was a bit of a team meeting afterwards in the changing room. A few days later, Monchi had gone. Whether that's linked to that, I don't know. But they had a replacement lined up, literally sort of days afterwards. So you'd guess it was something that was, your initial worry was if they got rid of him, what's Emery going to do? Because they're all pretty tight knit. But Emery's the one who has the final say on it all. At the end of the day, he's got a lot of power. So, new guy coming in. So then we got to the Fulham game, which is the one we've just had this weekend. A lot better. Not the start. We were a goal down within 3 minutes. a really, really soft corner. Proceeded from the kickoff to then give the ball away straight away. And it's my dog in the background, if you can hear that. Proceeded to give the ball away straight away again, so they're back on the attack. Fulham had a lot of pace. They didn't necessarily have a lot of skill, but they had a lot of pace to get them out of problems. You know, any sort of long ball or anything like that. They would, they just send it long or chase down or whatever, and they look quite a threat, but they didn't have a lot of didn't really have a lot of end product. But they were a goal out for a while, and then Ollie Watkins gets his equaliser. He'd missed a penalty against Bologna. I thought I've missed out that match, of course. Obviously beat Bologna on the Thursday, but again that was very, very unconvincing. I think we were fortunate that Bologna weren't really that good going forward. They've probably, like us, they've probably lost players after not being in the. They were in the Champions League last year. Now they're not, so I'm sure they've probably lost a few of their better players. But Ollie Watkins had missed a really poor penalty at the Holt end. He hit it low and the keeper saved it with his legs. But he scored a much more difficult chance against Fulham. Got a long ball from Luca Dean and managed to lob it over the Fulham keeper. And then it was back to this thing of momentum. Just keep it going. Don't slow it down. There was a couple of times when the ball went back to Emi Martinez and he was sort of gesturing to sort of calm down or slow it down. I was thinking, we don't want to. Momentum's a massive, massive thing in football, and you don't get it for the entire game. And sometimes you get it for very small periods of the game. And you've really got to make the most of it. And after seeing us sit back at Sunderland and pay the price up there, I really didn't want to see us do it again. Luckily, we started the second half better. Went 2-1 up with a goal from John McGinn. Really nice sort of run and planted it into the bottom corner. Knee slide towards the Holt end. We're in the lower Holt. We weren't too far away from that. We were on that side. Minute or so later, Ollie Watkins crosses it and it ends up being poked in by Emi Buendia. Excuse me. And all of a sudden it's a bit brighter. Literally seconds after that mistake and Watkins is through, and I sort of got it was a penalty. I thought he'd clipped him. It seemed really obvious, and then they broke and nearly scored. Emi Martinez made a bit of a howler, and Concer's made a cracking clearance off the line. But I was saying at the time that I was positive anyway that this would get VAR and it'd be a penalty. Turns out it wasn't. So in a way, it was definitely better. I think we probably decided on maybe 70 minutes or so that I think it was a case of we're gonna take what we've got and win and try and just win the game at 3-1, which I think is fair enough after the start we've made, because it's been really poor, and we haven't had the most difficult of starts. We played Newcastle when they didn't have a striker. We've played Everton, Sunderland, Crystal Palace. Admittedly, they're in form and they gave us a good drubbing. But Brentford in the cup, and it's not been the most difficult of starts. And clearly not too far around the corner. We're gonna have some real tough games coming up, but we definitely felt like it was a bit more like it. I mean, I hear things said about fans, and at the end of the day, fans everywhere are fickle. There's examples all over the shop. Spurs were booed off countless times last season when they won a trophy. Just at the weekend, Forest fans booed the team off. Chelsea fans booed the team off. It happens everywhere and all the time. The fans at Villa Park are no different to anyone else. And to be honest, they're not asking for much. They're asking for, let's have some commitment. Let's have a little bit of pace. You're not going to keep it up for an entire game, but this turgid, slow, sideways, snail-paced football is so fucking boring. And obviously when you're not winning as well, it's even worse. yeah, once there was a bit of momentum, we had a few attacks. You could hear the crowd was so up for it. And it really grinds my gears when players or whatever start slagging fans off. Morgan Rogers got some shit in the middle of the week. He's had a poor start to the season, there's no doubt. But to sarcastically cheer him when he plays a pass to one of our players, I think you can stand there, you can say to the people around you, your mates or whoever, say, "Oh, Rogers is having a shit game" or whatever. That's fine, but that sarcastic cheer, he heard that. Everybody heard that, and it didn't. It's not going to do anyone any good at all. I think people were generally behind him. I don't think he had another good game at all on Sunday against Fulham, but people were trying to get behind him, and there was no sort of repeat of what happened on Thursday. But yeah, there does seem a bit of a disconnect at the moment. I'm almost waiting for, when he does get his first goal, it's going to be the sort of fingers in the ears celebration type thing. But the last thing we need at the moment is a disconnect between players and supporters at the games. So yeah, we're, I think, 5th, 6th from bottom. But the points are tight enough at the moment that another win or two and suddenly you're back in a healthy position. But we've wasted a potentially reasonable fixture list to get off to a good start. So we're clearly going to have some harder games coming up. So on Thursday, back in the Europa League against Feyenoord, going to be going to that. So looking forward to that. Be heading down to get the plane over to Amsterdam tomorrow. Got a little bit of time there, and then get the train down to Rotterdam on the Thursday for the game. Stay down there, come back Friday morning, and we come back sort of early evening, back from Amsterdam. So we'll have a few hours there. But we've been there a couple of times already, and fairly recently, and we have been to Rotterdam as well. So it's there's nothing really new that we're going to do there, but. So yeah, it should be good. When we went to final before, obviously it's a ground that's synonymous in Villa's history for winning the European Cup. We wanted to see it, never thinking really that Villa were going to obviously end up playing there. So we went to see a normal league game. When I did the mic test earlier, when I coughed, it went right up to the red. So I was just making sure that I move away from the mic when I cough, because no one needs to hear that. Yeah, we just saw a normal league game, but they were final was second, and the team they played, Zwally, were lower mid-table. So there was nothing in it, and the atmosphere was that of a pre-season friendly. There was no real intensity to it. The game was a dead rubber. They were 3 or 4-0 up early in the second half. It was, very sort of easygoing atmosphere. I was talking to the guy and his family next to me and answering a few questions. Sorry, but this one is going to be completely different. This one is going to be really intense. And I think we're going to get the full-on atmosphere. I think they've played 7, won 6 in the league, drawn 1, so they're in good form. They lost their opening Europa League fixture though, which was away. So I think we're going to have to be right on the money, right on the ball, because if they start fast, we could be in a lot of trouble, to be honest. But yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing that place again, and just having another European away trip, because they really are the best. And then on the Saturday we got Burnley at home, and then I completely forgotten that we were going to see Parkway Drive in Birmingham as well, and of course they'd moved the Burnley game because of the European game. So it's not a problem in terms of literally all we're going to do is come away from Villa Park and go into the centre. It's going to be a long day. We've sort of got a day to recover on the Saturday coming back, and then we're straight back to it on the Sunday. It's going to be a long day, but it should be a good one. So yeah, Parkway Drive. So yeah, music at the moment. There's an album out, just out from Paradise Lost, called Ascension. I think it's probably going to be my album of the year. It's so strong. I mean, they've been around forever. It's sort of 35 years plus. And obviously, you know, through that time, they've got the set standard, but they've gone through phases where it's changed and whatever. But this just seems right up my street at the moment. It's obviously quite it's quite doomy and sad, and the lyrics are sad, and but there's some bright bits in there as well, and the pace changes, and the vocal range of Nick is astounding. You know, there's growls and really clean singing, and then he's sort of almost a bit James Hetfield like on a couple of the songs. But it was like the drums. I had a chance to really listen to it properly in the car. And the drums are immense. They really, really drive it. I couldn't say enough about them. They were really good. But yeah, really, really good album. I really liked it. And I would say it's going to take something pretty special to knock that off the album of the year perch for me. Starset brought their album out, Silos, and that one was slightly different in that we'd probably heard most of the songs on there. They've been releasing singles for the last year, so we've heard a lot of them. Some of the album was their sort of interludes and fillers and whatever that they do, which are quite good. And there was a couple of songs that we hadn't heard, which themselves were pretty good and probably were more like star set of the first couple of albums. I'd have said, you know, Paradise Lost for me was like a 9 out of 10, but this is probably, I'd say, about 7.5 out of 10 because it's typical star set. It's typical them. I suppose it could have been on the last album as well, but there's nothing wrong with it. They're good tracks, good songs. They've done a couple of covers. Shattered Dreams by Johnny Hates Jazz and Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears. So clearly like the English 80s band stuff to get 2 covers out of it. But yeah, it's absolutely fine. It's a good album. You know, not pulling up any trees as regards doing anything particularly new, but yeah, it's really good. It's a good album. The other one was Amorphis, which I've really only heard in the last couple of days. And I'd heard some very mixed reviews. Now, reviews, you know, you can take it with a pinch of salt. I heard a guy who I quite like on Banger TV do a review on Paradise Lost where he absolutely slated it. I was glad to see a lot of people in the comment section on YouTube in disbelief. But yeah, it's, you know, it's his right. If he thinks it's crap, then so be it. But yeah, I've not really had a chance to delve into it too much, but it's not grabbed me at all. It's a bit, I don't know if safe is the right word, but yeah, it's not grabbing me at all. I don't know if it's produced slightly differently, but it's not as, doesn't sound quite as guitar-y. But yeah, absolutely not really grabbing me at all. That's Borderlands by Amorphis. They're a good band. Got a lot of their albums. But, you know, this deep, a bit like Paradise Lost, when you've been going that long, is it a case of you're just churning out another album just to put out another album, or is there something behind it? With Paradise Lost, it feels like there's really something behind it, whereas this one's a bit more, I don't know. It's a bit of a sort of 5 out of 10 for me. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It sounds very Amorphis like, but it sounds a bit light, Amorphis light. So yeah, not too sure on that one. So yeah, Parkway Drive Sunday. We saw Frank Turner as well before he did his Lost Evenings stint up in Scotland. We were really lucky because where we saw him as well, you can queue inside, which is great. And we got right near to the front of the queue, so we got to the barrier. There was a young girl who was blind called Grace Chloe. And we'd seen her beforehand, and we were talking to her. It must be nice to come and watch, to hear a gig, even though you can't actually watch it. And she was actually like the sort of star of the show as regards the support. She was up there on her own. She'd lost her sight when she was 4, and then a few years back had sort of pretty much lost the few percent of sort of colours and things she could see. She was insanely talented, really, really, really good. Her voice, at times it was almost, to me, it was like Kate Bush. Then it was a bit like sort of Amy Winehouse. Massive vocal range, and yeah, really super impressive. A couple of times with the songs and some of the things she said at the end, and you normally get a bunch of bozos being all noisy, and we literally had it for about 5 seconds, and I think people just said, just shut the fuck up. And there were times when you could have heard a pin drop in there. So fair play to her. She did quite the job. It was a really inspired choice for support. And Frank was great. He had Matt Nazir with him and his wife for some of the songs as well. But they rattled through a set list, which was typical Frank. You've got some of the staple favourites, but then you go off on tangents with some I hadn't even heard of. But it was really, really good. And I think we both said when we walked out, even for an acoustic gig, because it was fairly loud, even though it was acoustic, but it was like one of our favourite gigs, whether it was because we were right down the front or, the ending's always very upbeat and positive and what have you. I don't know. But it was third or fourth time we've seen him, and he's always really good. So you're going to get a good show, and he really put on a good one. So there we are. As I say, I don't know if I look back now and I'm thinking like I can't justify just doing a podcast of say 15-20 minutes talking about grief anymore. I just can't. I can't do it. It's all there on the earlier ones if people want to listen to it in the raw and how it was. But I literally can't do it because it'd be a waste of time. I don't think I could fill 5 minutes, and I think it's too it's too depressing to listen to. It might be different if I was talking to someone else as a guest or something like that, and you bouncing things off each other because they make sense to you because you're in that sort of position, then I could understand. But when you're sort of talking to yourself into the microphone, it's a bit different. So I've said before, I think I'm going to stick to to football and music and TV and stuff. And I can't really come up with much for TV at the moment because I do tend to either be watching the football or watching the NFL, which obviously takes up quite a lot of time, and a few other sort of shows here and there. But so there we go. So apologies about the coldy sounding voice and the fact it's been ages since I did number 13. But we'll see where it goes from here. But I wish everyone all the best wherever you are in the world. Take care and all the best. See ya. Savage days caress my tears away, but you can defeat me. Savage days, so